Good morning, good evening, good wherever you are. How is everyone doing? Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another live stream. I am broadcasting from Maui, Hawaii. We've already got a few people in the chat. If you are joining us, say hello. Let us know where you are and if you sailed this week. We've got Greg. Hello, Greg. Greg said, no sailing. It's been cold and dark in Britain. Axel says, hello. 6 to 10 knots in Munich. Perfect for wind skating. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Cool. I also had some sailing. I'm back on Maui, and I had a few days on the water. There was a smaller day that ended up getting a little bit bigger, and then yesterday was pretty big and stormy. And yesterday's session was interesting. They were both interesting sessions from a coaching perspective. Yesterday, I really struggled for the first 30 or 40 minutes. I was catching waves and just not doing anything. My timing was off. I was too early, too late. My turns felt stiff, didn't feel good. And then there was a moment in the session where I was on kind of a big wave and I went around the section and I went for a 360 and I had this perfect big 360 and like something changed, something clicked in that moment. And every other wave after that, or almost every other wave, not all of them, were working great, fine. And I had a great second part to the session. And I don't know really what the lesson is. I think sometimes you can have these sessions where it feels like things are just not working. And maybe the lesson is to just go for it on one of the waves in within the realm of what you can do. Big 360s are something I can do. So I'm not saying go for something that you can't do. But instead of pulling back when things are not working, sometimes it's good to push a little bit forward, and that can shake off the rust or whatever it is that's going on. It was a strange experience, but it ended well. We've got Hans in the chat. He had a fun session on Friday. Sounds good. Side off 4-2. Jorg, south of Sweden, no sailing. Ragnar, also no sailing. Mark, also in Sweden. We got the whole Swedish crew here. Awesome. Sun and Wind. He had a super session. Cool. I'd love to hear it. Suna in Denmark, working hard. Rasmus, hello. Stefan, also Sweden. We've got Sweden representing today. Cool. Max, but no win. All right. I'm going to load up the Facebook group. You guys interrupt as much as you want. You know the drill. Matt, hello, Matt. So Matt says, no sailing. He could have gone, but the conditions were so grim, he didn't go. I get it. And Italy, hello, Italy. All right, I'm going to get the Facebook group loaded up. And we will just charge right through the Facebook group. Let's see. All right, what do we got today? So let's sort these by new posts. We've got Alessio in Italy. Awesome. Welcome, Alessio. And first up, we've got a post from Hans. So normally Hans is submitting footage from the POV perspective, either his own or someone else's POV action cam. first person POV by that, I mean. Session was cold and exhausting. Yes, I also feel like I get tired more quick, but I think that's normal. I think that's normal. It's harder to grip, your hands have issues, your body is losing more heat. I think colder sessions are more exhausting. And he's been working on engaging the rail in his top turns, and he felt like he wasn't very focused. So his wave selection wasn't great. Wave selection is one of the points that um, that Hans has been working on. Let's check. Let's check what's going on. Hey, Rich. Let's look at the pictures. So looks like we've got some good rail engagement, getting the butt low. There's a little bit of twist in this back knee, which isn't necessarily bad, but often we want to keep those knees pointing towards the toes rather than towards the nose of the board. And that allows us to then really transfer all of that energy into levering the board onto its cutback rail. So Hans, you're on the rail, you're getting spray. I think if you want to think about one thing here, it's getting a little bit less twist. There's a bit of a lunge going on in the knees. I can see that the back knee is pointing forward. You're getting a bit of twist in the knees. So trying to get out of that twist will be good. We've got this nice S position with the front arm coming up to the lip. I like this little turn. We're missing other shots in the sequence, but I think that it's happened pretty quickly. I think you're coming up, you're getting that high five that we're all looking for. The little high five there. I like to see it. This cutback, mainly a timing issue. The wave isn't really set up for you, but I think you know that. So all in all, pretty good progress. If you want to work on one thing, I would work on the knees and try to get the knees uh, in the cutback, not pointing towards the nose of the board. So you want the knees to be sort of parallel with each other. So it's more of a squat position than a lunge position. Awesome. All right, moving on. Next up, we've got a post from Axel, port tack side on wave riding from a couple weeks back in Los Canos, that's in Tarifa. Waves were difficult to read, and he tried to look more at the bottom of the wave before starting a turn. Still a bit too early for the cutback. Okay, let's check the video. The wave decided to disappear. Might have been better to go for a backside. All right, let's check the video. Video. All right, cool to get the third person point of view here. Awesome. Okay, yeah, the waves do look very difficult to read. Very difficult to read. All right, we're gonna have to go through this a little bit more slowly. The waves, why are they so difficult to read? So I've never sailed in Canos de Meca. What, for those of you who have, what do you think makes the waves difficult to read there? It looks from this like they are difficult. Is that just this session, or is that always the case? So nice setup turn. It is a little bit early. So the wave is, if you were coming into this section here or here, you'd be able to do the similar kind of turn better. And then if you wanted to hit the lip, you could come at it and hit this corner pocket right here at this time, making contact with it. So we're a bit early on the first one. Let's look at the second turn. So you do a little bottom turn, pick up speed. Uh, what Axel is doing here that is really important to point out is he's paying attention to the power sources of the wave. And so if we look at the line of swell, if you follow my mouse, there's a the top of the wave here, right? There's this hump. It's so the power coming in on one side of the power source and coming up to kind of the main part of where the power is. And so that placement is exactly what you want to do to be with the power of the wave. And then he's dropping in from this power source, so he's getting speed from the wave. And then he notices that there's not a power source here. And so he comes out of that bottom turn, and instead of trying to do a cutback and losing that power, he's traveling across this flat section where there is no power and looking for the next power source, which is here. We can see the wave is standing up, it's steep. And so that is a really important thing to do when you're riding waves. If we look at the posture in this bottom turn, he's hitting a lot of the points that we want to get. So we want get the knees bent, get low before you go, get the hinge at the hips, right? We want to be bending at the waist, pushing the sail away and leaning forward, leaning into that gap. This bottom turn position is great for getting on the rail. We've got a lot of compression, and you can see that there's spray and speed. Uh, it's all looking good. Now, at this point, Axel, I want to see you hit this section. You are good enough to hit these sections. You just come up, get the high five. This is corner pocket section. And so instead of looking around the mast at this point in the bottom turn and way down here, I want you looking around the clue and doing more of a U-shaped bottom turn and hitting these sections. It doesn't have to be a very tight U shape, but instead of trying to come around this section, come right into it. And you can see that that section, even though it looks, and this is one of the reasons that I think the waves are difficult to read, is it looks at this point like it might crash over top to bottom in a big barrel, which then can be intimidating. Still, you're good enough to hit those, but it's more intimidating. But then what ends up actually happening is the white water just sort of the lip comes on top of itself, and the white water dances on the top of the wave, which means there's really not a lot of power here. More power than anywhere else on the wave, but you could have hit that, and it would have been totally fine. And then I don't know if there was another wave to be had or another turn to be had out of that. But that section, I would have liked to see you hit. Um, Greg is saying this is one of the main takeaways for him coming back from Cape Town. So you've had, Greg, at least one or two sessions, wave riding sessions since Cape Town. Have you been able to transfer that concept to your conditions at home? So Axel's saying that he was getting too close to the rocks. So I've never been there. I don't know where the rocks are. That may well be the case. Uh, may well be the case with the rocks. I'm not sure. Generally, you can go closer to rocks than you think, but it's spot specific, right? And I don't know the spot, so it's hard for me to say. We've got LC Duplex in southern Italy. Ciao, ciao, ciao. Where in southern Italy are you? Are you getting, you say you're not getting conditions right now, but I know there are some spots in southern Italy that can get really good in the winter. I've seen amazing footage from Puglia, really awesome footage from Puglia. Uh, Italy is one of the places in Europe that I think is very underrated for wave sailing. And it's somewhere that I haven't really explored very much. I've visited Italy a few times and had amazing trips, but not amazing conditions. It's somewhere that I would really like to go. Often, when I'm looking at the forecast, it's a 1 day window for the wind and the waves, and then it's difficult to make the trip there when I'm in Germany. I would really like to see 2 or 3 days before I invest in doing the trip, uh, which is maybe just the case, and maybe I just have to bite the bullet and go on one of these trips and just get one solid day of sailing and enjoy Italy the rest of the time. But anyway, Italy has amazing wave sailing. We see some of it in the group. We've seen some great waves posted. Evening, Steen. All right, let's get back. So, Axel, it's mainly a timing thing, or it's all a timing thing. Um, so you say you're forcing maybe the cutback, and why you end up spinning out. It's pretty much just all timing, and trying to get the more U-shaped bottom turn. So the U-shaped bottom turn will also help with the cutback, because you can think about it. The more drawn out your bottom turn is, and the more you're traveling down the line out of the bottom turn, the more energy you have going down the line, right? It's obvious. And so that energy down the line turns into spin out because the board wants to keep going down the line, right? Momentum, you have that momentum down the line, the energy, everything wants to be conserved, the motion wants to be conserved. So, yeah, you slide out. Whereas if you're doing that U-shaped turn, then the board is going more back out to sea, back against the wave, and you're pushing it around, and more importantly, the wave is pushing it around, and so it's bringing it more in a 180 because the momentum from the board is coming like straight into the power of the wave, which then pushes it around, and that's what makes a really dynamic cutback that's pleasing to watch and pleasing to do, and with less spin out. Does that make sense? So the more you do in the bottom turn, so this is why people are talking about going vertical, hitting it at 12 o'clock, because you make a more dynamic cutback. You have that board has less of that down the line travel. Um, so Greg is saying that he hasn't really had a session where he's been able to put in the lessons from Cape Town, but he will, and I'm excited to hear how it goes. All right. Next up, we've got a post from Ryan, and he's talking about the Chinook extension, which I also use, and he dinged his board. I had an issue like this in Cape Town. It's very frustrating when it happens. These collars are very hard, and they do stick out more than the old style. I like even the old style. I'm not a big fan of these plastic ones. I like the ones where you've got your black plastic sliding collar and your metal ring that's on a string. There's nothing wrong with those. So you can still get them, and you can uh, custom fit your uh, your extension. But if you are using this kind of collar, you want to make sure that this part that sticks out is pointing in towards the sail. You don't want it pointing out towards the board, because then it can, or out towards the, you know, it's away from the sail. You want this pointing towards the sail, because then it's tucked in there and it's not going to hit the board and damage it, like in this picture. Right. So this is a pretty good public service announcement. Thank you for posting. I know it's frustrating. Um, yeah, I really like the old collars. I didn't see a reason to change them, but I do like the Chinook gear, and it is what I use myself. But this is a really good public service announcement. All right, next up, we've got a clip from Tavi. So Tavi has been working on his wave riding and working on his aerials. And so this is in Scarborough Beach, there we go, in Cape Town. And the first thing we look at is he's really laying into the bottom turn, which is not something you need to do with the aerial, but it definitely looks cool. In the beginning, though, it might be easier to do less of a bottom turn when you're going into the aerial. So let's watch this again and let's break it down. So going pretty hard in the bottom turn, hitting the lip here, coming under the lip, getting a bit of that high five, and getting thrown up into the air, catching the wind, pointing down the line, which is what you want to do. You don't want to be pointing back straight into the beach. You want to be pointing more down the line. And landing, though, behind the wave. And so the progression with aerials, when you start doing aerials, you'll first land behind the wave like this, and then you'll land on top of the white water and still not make it back into the wave. And then you'll land a little bit farther forward. So you're landing on top of the white water, but just a little bit farther forward. And so the white water will pick you up and you'll be able to ride the white water down in front of the wave. And then the holy grail of aerials is landing in the flats. Boom. And there's another type of aerial as well where, but pretty much those are the stages of the progression. And this is great. So this is wonderful for starting. What do you need to do to land in front of the wave? So there are a couple things going on here. The wind is very offshore in Scarborough. Offshore wind is good for aerials because it helps hold the wave up, and it also helps give you lift. So it helps you fly, but it's also blowing you out the back of the wave. So in a place like Scarborough, it is difficult to land back in front of the wave. You have to really get the timing right. So in a spot that is more side shore, Tavi, you might have landed this on top of the whitewater and even been able to sail in. But because the wind is so offshore, that didn't happen. So that's just a note about the wind. Now, for landing back inside, even in these conditions, what is really important is getting your board under the lip when you're making contact with it, so that the lip throws you forward. So it's not about jumping up and sailing in, it's about getting under the lip. So the power of the lip, as that curl is curling, transfers into the bottom of the board, and that classic high five, like we always talk about, and pushes you in front of it. And so if we look at this picture, there's actually less of a high five happening than we would like. You can see that the angle that the wave is like this, and the angle of the board is like this. And what we want is that angle of the board is matched to the surface of the wave, right? Match the surface of the wave, and then the energy hits the bottom, and you get projected forward. So what we want to do is come out of this bottom turn, and then instead of having the board going just straight down the line, we've got the board angled so that it's under the lip of the wave. And that is what is going to allow you to land these back in front. You could be also just a touch, just a tiny, tiny touch later. And so what that means on this specific wave is hitting it about a half meter farther down the line. So where the wave is starting to throw a little bit more. And if you're thinking about getting that board in the curl of the wave, so you're getting that really that perfect high five so that the bottom of the board really matches the surface of the wave, it's easy to get the timing because you're fitting the board in the part of the wave that is ready to pitch forward, and so it also helps to get the timing. I'll see if I can get if I can find another video and we can look at it quickly. I know aerials are something everyone wants to do. Ragnar has got a topic about the mast extension. He says a thick mast protection padding could help. Are he's asking, are mast protection padding getting thinner because manufacturers want to compete on total weight? That's a good question. I'm not sure if they are getting thinner. Why is that? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think people don't want a lot of bulk on the tack, but maybe on a lot of sails, it's gone too streamlined there. There's not enough padding, and we're starting to see boards getting dinged because of it. Good question. Really good question. All right, let's see if we can find an aerial. I'm going to check on continent 7. I like checking continent 7 for moves. Let's see if my internet's a little slow. Otherwise, I, of course, have some video for myself. Uh, let's see. Let's see what we can find on. Ooh. Okay, so we've got a few different examples here. I don't know why this is all messed up. There's one from me. Let's open that and see what it looks like. There's one from Pons. All right, so let's see if this works. So this is from where I came back through the double elimination. So I'd lost early in the single and I came back through the double. I won something like 7 heats in a row or something crazy. So, okay, so there's not really a down the line aerial. This is a tweaked aerial, which is a different technique. So I'm just going to close this. All right, let's watch Pons' aerial. This is going to be a lot closer to, yeah, it's very close to what we saw from Tavi. So Pons is going for a little bottom turn, similar to Tavi. And then this is key. So if we look at how he's angled the board, you can see that the board is somewhat, this is not even a great example of it, but somewhat angled on the lip, and he's able to get that projection. So let's look at another one because this is not a great example. You can see it a little bit, but also a little bit more. Okay, this is a better example. Less of a bottom turn, but if we look at the angle of the board, and let's compare it here to Tavi's, you can see that high five, that power of the wave is making contact with the bottom of the board. So he's fitting the board more in the curl, right? Which then it gives the position to forward. Uh, let's look at another one. I'm not so happy with these videos. These are a little bit funky. That's also kind of funky. That's in Pozo. Let's see, Daida. If this is also Pozo. It is Pozo, so this is going to be completely different. Let's say Mark Coster. Okay, this is maybe a good example. Yeah, so this is a great example, actually, of what I'm talking about. So you can see, as he's coming up into the lip, he's modifying the angle of the board so that the bottom of the board is lined up with the curl of the lip, right? So let's look at these. See, here the curl of the lip is coming here, and the board is coming almost perpendicular to it rather than perfectly lined up with it. And so here in this example with Coster, you can see as he's coming up to it, how he's adjusting the angle of the board, right? To get that right angle. And then the lip hits him and he flies, sheets in, points his toes, all of that. But he's landing in front of the wave because of how he's angled the board coming up into the lip, right? So it's super, super important. Let's see. Let's watch some of these other ones. Oh, this is a crazy one. This is wild. Oh, look at that area. Whoa, that's a wild one. But same thing. So look at the angle of the board compared to the lip. Compare it to this, right? So the board is under the lip and he's getting that board so that the bottom is presented to the power source of the lip, and then it projects him, and that's what allows that big air. All right, let's watch one more. Well, not this one. We want to stay with down the line ones. Let's see one from Kevin. Here's another one. This is an epic, huge wave, but it's going to be the same principle. So if we look again, he's angling the bottom of the board, right? So that it's presented to that lip. And then there's just that little bit of projection that throws him forward. That's a pretty awesome one. Look at that. That's a scary section. It's scary for a few reasons. One, it's a huge wave going, and you're coming into that lip, which is scarier when it's this size. And then it's a whitewater wave. Whitewater waves are hard to see, they're hard to read. Boom. All right. All right. So, Tavi, I hope that that's clear for everyone else also. I hope that makes sense. We've got a question. We've got Thomas saying that he wants to make a campaign against non-waterproof wetsuit zippers. Yeah, I'd sign that. Um, York says any conditions where it doesn't make sense to even think about making an aerial, too onshore or too small waves or no perfect breaking wave. Yeah, I think there's a lot of conditions where aerials don't make sense. If it's too onshore, I'd say go for backside aerials. So you can still do aerials, but not frontside. But you want the waves to have a little bit of curl. The more wind there is, the more you can force it. So if the wave is really crumbly, but there's a lot of wind, you can force an aerial. But generally, you want to have some shape on the wave. So Tavi, welcome. Tavi asks, looks like they already anticipate the wave throwing them and lean away with their body. I think there is a small element of that that's going on, but what it feels like is really just trying to get the board under under the lip, trying to get the board under the lip, and that is what allows it to push forward. Let me see. I've got um, another thing here. Let me see if I can share this screen and it works. Let's see. Um, all right, let's see this. It's a little bit of an experiment if I can get this working. If I can get it working, cool. Otherwise, we'll just move on. No, it doesn't work. I have another folder I wanted to share, but from Scarborough, but I know I can't get it to work. So I'll post it on the on the on the Facebook page. I could even, I wonder if I could do that right now. Does that make sense? What I'm saying about getting the bottom of the board presented to the lip? Like, can you imagine how you would go about doing that? And then you get that projection forward. So Tavi and everyone else who's thinking about aerials and wanting to do aerials, is that something that you can imagine? So I found I've got a couple pictures. I'm gonna throw these on the in the comments here. Let's see if this works. Let me see if I can get this working. So I'm posting an example in the Facebook group of a little aerial from me from Scarborough, where I do land in front of the wave. I'll see if I have any more. But just again, the most important thing is getting that board under, not just under the curl, but that it's angled, positioned so that you have the same, or it's on the same plane. So it's fitting inside the curl. So you've got to get the bottom of the board so it's riding that surface of the wave. And so as the wave is curling, then your board is going more upside down. Um, all right, I'm just checking if I've got any more clips to add that I can put on the. Okay, so I posted that. I'm going to load up the screen share again here. All right, so Ragnar says he's also interested in training aerials. I think backsides are definitely where you want to start. York says, any way to practice them getting ready for the day when there's conditions for it? Backside. Backside aerials are a great way to train for frontside aerials because there are similar principles when it comes to board placement and timing. And so if you get comfortable with finding that pop from the lip, then you'll be much better at. So here's an example of me. This was a little frontside aerial, same spot as where Tavi is sailing. And what I want to point out is just how angled my board is under the lip. So that is really the next step, is getting that angle under the lip. All right, next up, we've got a post from Jan Thomas who says, how long does your wave hold up? This was Daida in Pozo. She caught better waves, but she caught worse. How many of you are blessed with real waves that hold up enough for you to even understand what happened? So there's a lot of face here. And Dida uses this to go backside, and that is great. I really recommend in these wave conditions going backside. It's so much fun and you learn a lot. And when the wind is onshore like this, it's a great way to ride waves. Um, let's make this full screen. Let's look at it. Well, she misses out on the frontside turn, and that's okay. She mistimes it a bit. There's not a lot of time for how she's chosen to ride the wave. So if she had been farther upwind and not gone for this backside, then this would have been really well set up for doing a corner pocket high five. So she would launch somewhere about here where this white water is, get that power source, and come into one of these power sources down below. But as it was, because she went for that backside air, there wasn't really enough time then to go into the front side. But this is definitely the kind of wave where you can do a frontside turn. It's pretty good conditions for Pozo. All right, next up, Julius. Julius is working on push loops and he started over rotating them and now he's been trying to slow down the rotation. All right, so let's watch some of these videos. We and see how they look. Pretty radical. That rotation is scary. And so I'm hoping that this is an earlier one and that the later ones where you're more controlled are later, because that looks like kind of a scary rotation. Uh, we've got someone on Facebook from Denmark. Awesome. Hello, Denmark. Sailed in the Rolf storm, but no waves in Denmark. So practicing downwind 360s. Sounds awesome. Thanks for being here. Thomas says going vertical on the bottom turn automatically presents to the wave. Yep, that's true. We got Jakob. Yeah, nice. Jakob in Denmark. Jakob is one of our regulars. Welcome, Jakob. So let's get into the push loop. Jakob is also working on push loops. And so, Julius, this over rotation is pretty scary. Looks like you're getting more control on the rotation, and I like to see it. So now how do we meet in the middle? Because this one is a little bit under rotated. Looks like you're getting some tweakage going on. All right, let's watch. Let's watch all of the clips. I don't know why it bumps me out every time. So we've got to come back down. Look at this one. That's pretty darn close. So you're going upwind on the takeoff. Let's go back to the takeoff. So upwind on the takeoff, going up, getting some head throw, trying to rotate around the gear, get the gear under you. This is pretty close. This is pretty darn close. I would say you just want to keep doing what you're doing here. I see one thing you can do differently, which I'm going to mention in a second. Uh, let's watch the other ones though and see if. Okay, that's the one we already saw. All right, this one we haven't seen yet. Oof. So we're getting a lot of tweak. I mean, this is a very, very tweaked, uh, very tweaked push loop. This is which is awesome, but you don't have to go so tweaked. All right, this one again, also very, very tweaked. Getting a lot of throw off the ramp, which is, I mean, this one's very close. You almost landed that one. These remind me of the ones that Ujima was doing 20 years ago. They were super cool, super stylish. Yeah, so all of the ones that you're doing, except for this one, I don't like this. This kind of rotation is scary, and you'll end up you don't have a lot of control. So I'm hoping that the other ones are later. If they're not later, you wanna go back to the technique that you were doing in these other ones because it's really close to being landed. So the main thing that I see for working on, uh, is pushing the sail in front of you towards the nose of the board. And so it looks like you're pushing down on the sail, and then it comes up, but what you really wanna think about is getting that sail in front of you. And so, again, here we're pushing on the sail, but we want to think about is carrying that sail in front of you. And so it's going towards the nose of the board. Um, I think that just that one small change will help you land these. So you see how the sail's sort of staying in place here, but what you want to do is bring that sail in front of you, and so the front the front arm, actually gets bent in the elbow. It can be straight, but often it has bend in the elbow because you're sort of pulling that sail forward and in front of you, and then it straightens out again. But having both arms really straight like this, where it looks like you're pushing the sail to downwind, is not what you want to be doing. So you want to push out with that backhand, but also really importantly, be pulling with that front hand, trying to get that sail in front of you. So that front hand is pulling the sail around in the rotation, trying to get it in front of you. So I think that is going to be the game changer, Julius. I think if you start doing that with otherwise the exact same technique, you're going to start making these. So the sail is getting left behind. Even on this one, which you're really close to making, you're pushing on both hands. You get a pop up, but because the sail was downwind, the way that it pops up, it's pushing you more into the wind, so you're not able to land cleanly. Whereas if you're pulling that sail forward as it pops up, then it pops you in a position where your board is pointing straight out. So that's the game changer. Great progress. These are look like awesome loops. Um, I'm just gonna comment here. Uh, we talked about this on the live today. Good work. You want to focus on pushing the sail in front of you at the end of the loop. You want to use your front hand to pull the sail up and forward. All right, let's watch a video, and then that's the last thing. Yeah, but let's see. Let's see Content 7. Go back to Content 7. And again, I like using this resource because it's open to everyone. You can go to Content 7, whatever move you're working on, type it in there. So these are super radical. Why are these all push loops into forward? We just want a normal push loop. It's crazy. Why is it all push loop into forward? Let's get more results. So Alessio does beautiful push loops. We could check one of his video. His style, um, this is a very advanced, oh, file not found. Okay. Here's one from, all right, these are not working. I don't know why. Hold on. Let me see if I have one on my computer. Otherwise, I'll have to find one and I'll post it in the comments. Yeah, it looks like I don't have. Looks like I don't have any on the computer here. Oh, I do. I have one. All right, let's see if I can get this loaded up and then we can look at it. So I've got to. All right, how do I do this? Okay, so this is one from me. This is a bit of a strange loop because I'm going off of whitewater, but I think you can see what I mean here. So watch this front arm and it's really pulling the sail forward in front of me. And so you want that sail to be in front of you, not downwind of you. Does that make sense? And the backhand too. The backhand is not just pushing down; it's also pushing the sail forward. And so the sail is you want to get those hands so that they're pointing towards the nose of the board, and even your upper body is not. Your shoulders are not pointing downwind; they're pointing towards the nose of the board or back out to sea. Um, does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But that will be the game changer for you. All right. With that, I am going to sign off. I think it's windy today. I'm going to try and get on the water. I hope you guys have a windy week, and I will see you next week, Sunday. Remember to have fun first and foremost. And then if you get some footage or questions or photos, post it in the Facebook group. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great week. Thanks for showing up. I will see you next week, Sunday, and in the Facebook group along the way.